A forgotten dam in the outskirts of Redwater City hides a secret. A body pulled from the depths with ligature marks and a missing ID tag, only for a mysterious witness to step forward days later claiming, "I know exactly who put him there." Today, we unpack Witness D's explosive confession. How he says he helped an elite tactical unit dispose of a body, why he kept silent for years, and the one detail investigators almost missed. He remembers the ringtone first, an unfamiliar number vibrating through the dark, cutting through the silence like a blade. When he answered, the voice didn't introduce itself, didn't explain anything, just said, "Get to the warehouse on Ironville Road. Now." No room to question, no room to breathe. He drove half awake, headlights carving thin lines through the mist as he tried to make sense of why a covert unit he barely worked with suddenly needed him at midnight. Something felt wrong, very wrong, the kind of wrong that sticks to your skin. The Black Lantern Division wasn't spoken about publicly. It existed in whispers, rumors, coded references traded by people who pretended not to know anything. Witness D had only brushed shoulders with them twice, both times under tense circumstances where nobody exchanged names. They moved like people who thought laws didn't apply to them, quiet, precise, unsettlingly calm. When he reached the warehouse, he saw two members leaning against a black armored van, both wearing unmarked jackets, both staring at him like they were measuring something invisible. Their silence felt heavier than the air. Inside the warehouse, cold fluorescent lights flickered overhead. That's when he saw it, a long shape on the floor, wrapped tightly in thick industrial plastic, duct-taped at the ends. The odor hit him first, a sharp chemical sourness mixed with something metallic. One of the operatives nudged the wrapped figure with his boot, not gently, not cautiously, just enough to communicate the finality of what lay inside. Witness D froze, pulse hammering, unsure whether to turn away or look closer. He didn't want to ask questions, but every part of him screamed that he should. Before he could speak, the taller operative stepped toward him, hand resting on the grip of his sidearm. "You didn't see anything," he said, tone flat, eyes cold. Not a warning, a statement, the kind that didn't leave room for misunderstanding. Witness D nodded slowly, but the operative leaned closer anyway, making sure the message sank deep. The other operatives didn't blink, didn't shift, didn't soften. The entire room felt like a trap he'd walked into willingly. In that moment, it became clear his presence wasn't optional. He was already involved. They loaded the body into the back of the van with a dull thud that echoed in the empty warehouse. Witness D was ordered into the passenger seat while two operatives slid in behind him, their eyes fixed on him like surveillance cameras. The drive was long, silent, suffocating. The only sound came from gravel snapping under the tires as they left the city behind and entered the rural darkness. A thin layer of fog hugged the road, making everything feel blurred, unreal. Witness D kept his hands still, terrified that even breathing too loudly might provoke someone. When they reached the dam, the water looked like a dark sheet of glass stretching endlessly into the night. The moon hung low, throwing pale light across the ripples. The operatives dragged the wrapped body out of the van and motioned for Witness D to help. His hands shook as he grabbed the plastic, cold, rigid, unforgiving. Together they walked it to the edge, boots sinking into damp soil. Without ceremony, the operatives shoved it forward. The body hit the surface with a deep splash, sank slowly, then disappeared completely. The silence afterward felt unnatural. On the ground near where the body had been, Witness D noticed something small, a metallic badge fragment half buried in mud. It caught the moonlight for just a moment, enough for him to recognize the edge of an insignia he knew wasn't supposed to exist outside restricted facilities. Before he could react, one operative kicked dirt over it, making it vanish as though it had never been there. None of them acknowledged it, not a word, but that tiny glimpse lodged itself in Witness D's mind, refusing to fade, refusing to be ignored. After that night, Witness D tried to return to normal life, but normal didn't feel possible anymore. Every knock on his door felt like a threat. Every unknown number sent a chill down his spine. The Black Lantern Division didn't need to threaten him again. Their presence hovered over him like a storm cloud, silent but loaded with possibility. He convinced himself that speaking up would only make things worse, that the safest choice was to bury the memory the same way they had buried the body. Fear became a constant companion. SSD began to notice small fractures forming at the edges. Rumors drifted through back channels, disagreements between senior operatives, equipment shipments going missing, coded messages that didn't match the usual patterns. Some members were suddenly reassigned to distant postings without explanation, while others simply vanished from internal rosters. The group's once seamless coordination felt strained, like gears grinding inside a machine no one maintained anymore. Witness D watched quietly, sensing that whatever held the division together was unraveling from within. The case resurfaced unexpectedly when a county investigator, Mara Kelson, announced a cold file review of unexplained disappearances near the Redwater Dam. Her name kept appearing in precinct briefings, and every mention tightened something in Witness D's chest. She wasn't known for letting things go. She had a reputation for finding threads no one else noticed. When word leaked that she'd retrieved archived surveillance logs and requisitioned equipment mapping the dam floor, Witness D realized the past he tried to bury was clawing its way back. The silence he'd clung to began to feel fragile. It didn't happen all at once. It wasn't dramatic. It started with sleepless nights, then tense mornings, then sudden jolts of panic when he heard footsteps behind him. He avoided crowds, avoided eye contact, avoided conversations that drifted too close to the dam. Then one evening, alone in his apartment, the weight finally crushed him. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. His breathing came in ragged bursts, and he pressed his palms against his eyes trying to block out the memory of plastic sinking into dark water. The confession didn't come from courage. It came from collapse. When Witness D finally spoke to investigators, his story flowed with unnerving detail, but one part didn't fit. He mentioned a road closure on the night of the incident, insisting they had taken a detour through Ridgeline Pass. Kelson checked the records. There had been no closure, not even temporary maintenance work. That discrepancy hung in the air like a challenge. Some officers whispered that he fabricated everything. Others believed he forgot under stress. Kelson, however, simply stared at him across the interview table, studying the way his eyes darted when she repeated the question. Weeks later, divers performing a maintenance scan of the dam found something unexpected wedged between two submerged concrete slabs. A strip of torn industrial plastic, thick and dark, preserved by the cold water. The edges matched patterns commonly used in clandestine storage facilities, patterns not available to civilian markets. Investigators sealed it in an evidence bag, speaking in low voices as though the dam itself might be listening. Word spread quickly through the precinct. Whatever Witness D had seen, whatever he claimed he carried to the water, a piece of it had resurfaced. The deeper investigators dug, the more one name kept appearing in encrypted messages and redacted reports. A figure known only as Commander Ashfall. No photo, no personnel file, no service record that wasn't censored to the point of absurdity. Witness D had heard the name before, always spoken with a mix of respect and dread. They said Ashfall never raised his voice but never needed to. Rumor claimed he orchestrated operations no one dared document. If the dam incident was real, he was the one capable of ordering it. His absence from official files was louder than any presence. Investigators eventually unearthed an old internal memo linking the victim, a still unidentified man, to a confidential data breach involving the Black Lantern Division. The memo was fragmented, half deleted, but it hinted at classified intel slipping into the wrong hands. Witness D had never known who lay inside that plastic, but the memo added a chilling dimension. The victim wasn't random. He was connected to something someone desperately needed buried. In the interview room, Witness D sat motionless when Kelson read one redacted line aloud, a line suggesting the breach originated much closer to the division than expected. Kelson arranged one last test. She took Witness D back to the dam under controlled conditions, asking him to retrace every step without prompting. The night air was colder than he remembered, and the shoreline felt unfamiliar, but then something shifted. His breathing steadied, his eyes fixed on a point near the water. He walked toward it without hesitation, stopping exactly where divers had found the torn plastic. His knees buckled slightly, not from fear but from recognition. Kelson watched quietly, weighing the authenticity in the tremor of his voice when he whispered, "This is where it happened." The Black Lantern division didn't implode loudly. It folded in on itself like a dying star, quiet, inward, but unstoppable. Budgets froze without explanation, encrypted communication channels went dark, and several high-level operatives resigned within days, each filing vague statements about structural instability. Rumors spread through the underground networks that internal files were leaked, triggering panic among those who once believed themselves immune to consequence. Witness D observed from a distance as the unit dissolved piece by piece, not with dramatic arrests or televised hearings, but with an eerie, administrative silence that felt more deliberate than accidental. Even after the division crumbled, the memory refused to loosen its grip on Witness D's small sounds. A car door slamming, a voice echoing in a hallway, footsteps in stairwells, sent him spiraling back to the dam's shoreline, where moonlight painted the water silver and cold air clung to his skin. He replayed the moment the plastic slipped beneath the surface, trying to rewrite it, trying to convince himself he could forget. But the past lingered in the spaces he avoided. The warehouse corridor he couldn't walk down, the highway turno late at night, when the city settles into its quietest hour. Witness D sometimes finds himself standing at his window, staring out at the distant glow of the dam's floodlights. He tells no one about these moments, how the cold wind seems to carry the same scent that hung over the water all those years ago. He closes his eyes and hears the splash again, slow, heavy, final. Some nights he wonders whether the truth ended at the bottom of that reservoir, or if pieces of it are still drifting just beneath the surface, waiting for the wrong person to look too closely. The thought follows him like a faint echo, impossible to silence.